If you're not already, could I please ask you all to just go on to mute, please? That would be very, very helpful. Okay, and have we got, is it Vicky, are you doing the live stream? Are you able to confirm if the live stream is up and running, please?
Yes, Chair, we are live. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much indeed. In that case, welcome everybody to Development Management Meeting on the 16th of February for West Devon Borough Council. We do have a protocol which members I think should be thoroughly familiar with by now, but just reminding you to please all just mute your microphones, and also any members of elected members of West Devon Borough Council, if you're not a registered speaker or member of this committee, then I need to ask you to please leave the meeting and you can view the live stream on YouTube. Thank you very much indeed. Our applications will follow their usual procedure, with the case officer presenting their report, followed by registered speakers being invited to speak. And members of the committee will be able to question each speaker on points of clarity if they so wish. Speakers will be invited to the meeting at the beginning of each application and return to the lobby once a decision on that particular application has been reached. The recommendation will be moved and seconded to enable debate, and at the conclusion of the debate on each application, I shall call for the vote. Each councillor who is in attendance will be called to confirm they were present for the entire item and then asked for their vote. As always, could I please remind members that if anyone is minded to vote against a recommendation which results in that particular application being refused, then you will need to be prepared to give clear reasons for refusal, supported by the relevant policies from the JLP, as that is what will be relied on at any subsequent appeal. Equally, if any member has a disclosable pecuniary interest, then you will need to leave the meeting for the duration of the relevant application and will be required to disconnect from the call. You will be invited back to the meeting once that application has been determined. Could I remind members please to remain focused on the application being considered and keep questions and comments short and to the point and on material planning grounds, beg your pardon. As the minute taker will find it harder than normal to identify who is speaking and what is being said, please do speak clearly and at a reasonable pace. Where an officer wishes to speak, they will indicate using the chat facility. So right before we start, I'm just going to ask Mrs. Hall to take a roll call to ensure that all can hear and be heard, and to confirm that the meeting is called. After that, Mrs. Hall will advise the committee of the officers present and their role. I'm getting a bit of feedback for some reason on here, so please could you check if you are muted, and if not, please could you mute yourself, members. Thank you very much. Mrs. Hall, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Cheadle.
I'm here and I can hear, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Crozier. Councillor Crozier, you're on mute. Councillor Crozier.
Sorry, I had another screen up. Yes,
Thank
I'm
you.
here and I can hear.
Thank you. Councillor Hipsey.
I'm present and I can hear.
Thank you. Councillor Mott.
Present and can hear.
Thank you. Councillor Moyes.
Present and can hear.
Thank you. Councillor Pearce.
Present and can hear.
Thank you. Councillor Ratcliffe.
I'm present and I can also hear.
Thank you. Councillor Renders.
Yes, present and can hear.
Thank you. Councillor Vachon.
Present and can hear.
Thank you. And Councillor Yelland.
Present and can hear.
Thank you. And just for clarification, the officers present are Pat Weimer, the Head of Planning, Jacqueline Houslander, the Planning Officer, Anna Henderson-Smith, Planning Officer, Becky Folds, Solicitor, Janice Young, Gatekeeper, and myself, Catherine Hall, Democratic Services Officer. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, so we will get straight on to the agenda. Hold on, let me find my first page. Here we go. So item 1, apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies, Ms. Hall?
We have no apologies, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 2, declarations of interest. So members are invited to declare any personal or disclosable pecuniary interests, including the nature and extent of such interests they may have in any items to be considered at this meeting. I will just declare the interest on behalf of all members in the first application 2560/20/HHO 6 Tiddybrook Road, Whitchurch, by virtue of the fact that the applicant's partner is a borough councillor, and that is the nature of that interest, and that is on behalf of all the committee. Whether any members of the committee wish to declare further interests because of whether they know that know Councillor Bridgewater in a personal matter, then please do so. I can see Councillor Pearce has his hand up to declare an interest.
Thank you, Chairman. I would declare an interest in all applications, a personal interest that is, in all applications because of my membership of the Devon Building Control Partnership. And also, I've received 2 letters by email in respect of application 2295/20/full for Bratton Clovelly, which I think some other members may have done also.
Thank you. Yes, I will be coming to that one in a moment, to deal with that one in just a second when we've gone through the declarations of interest. Thank you. I have to take these in the order that the hands are coming up on the top. So Councillor Radcliffe. Thank you. Councillor Radcliffe, I think you may be on mute.
I muted it. Oh,
there you go.
Can you hear me now? Thank
Yes.
you very much, Chair. Yes, may I declare that I'm a member of the Tavistock Golf Club, to which the applicant's husband is also a member. However, I have not discussed this application with him at all, and so therefore I have an open mind.
Lovely. Thank you very much. And Councillor Hipsey.
Thanks, Chair. Similarly, the applicant in 2560/20/HHO, the applicant's husband is a good friend as well as a colleague, although that's non-pecuniary, and I have an open mind. I have also received the 2 emails to which Councillor Pearce refers regarding 22595/20
Lovely. Thank you very much. If when you've spoken, if you'd be kind enough to take your hands down, otherwise I should be calling you back in again. Thank you. No, the declarations, thank you. Okay, so come to item 3, which is the items requiring urgent attention. And as circulated yesterday, there are changes now to 2 applications. So application 2672/20/HHO 31 Glanville Road has been withdrawn and will be heard at next month's committee. Equally, at the very last minute, application 2295/20 FUL, which is east of West Hudson Farm, that has also been now withdrawn due to very late information coming forward last night, which meant that if officers were to have any questions on that particular matter, they wouldn't be able to be clear on it. So that has had to be withdrawn simply to allow the officers to gain further clarity. It was such short notice that and it was material. So in actual fact, that one will now be heard at presumably at next month's committee, assuming that clarity can be obtained in time. Okay, thank you. So item 4 is the confirmation of the minutes of the meeting held on the 12th of January, which can be found on pages 1 to 6 of your agenda. Is everybody happy that I sign these as a true and accurate record? If not, please could I ask if you could just indicate by raising your hand? Okay, nothing coming, so I think all is okay. So they will be signed at a later date. I think we've got a bit of a pile to sign. So now we move on to planning applications, item 5 on the agenda, which all can be found between pages 7 to 66. And we will start off with the first application, which is 2560/20/HHO at 6 Tiddybrook Road, Whitchurch, and Ms. Glanville is the planning officer. So, it's Ms. Henderson Smith by the looks of things. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I will be presenting today on behalf of the case officer, Nicola Glanville. I'll just present my PowerPoint. Perhaps somebody could confirm for me that you can see that, please.
Yes, I can see it.
Excellent, thank you, Councillor Pearce. Right, good morning, Chair. Members, as I just said, I'll be presenting today on behalf of the case officer, Nicola Glanville, but I have also been to the site. So this is 6 Tiddybrook, 2560 20 HHO. It's a householder planning application for a single-storey rear extension, the conversion of an existing single attached garage, and the addition of a number of windows. As per page 7 of your agendas and has already been mentioned by several members, this application is before committee as the applicant is the wife of Mr Bridgewater, who is an elected West Devon member. And as there have been a number of objections to the scheme for purposes of transparency, it was felt best that the application came before committee for determination. As you can see on pages, you can see the objections on pages 9 and 10 of your reports. I'll just take you through the plans. The main considerations here are design, amenity, the parking that would be left, and the content of the majority of the objections, as you will have seen, is around the continued use of one room. It would change to another room to that at present, but the continued use of one room within the property to conduct the applicant's business, which is as a sports therapist. That's the main content of a lot of the objections. So you'll see as we go through the plans that appears on the floor plans. So as you can see, the site is located within the built-up residential area of Tavistock. I think you can see my cursor, hopefully. Yeah. Thank you. 6 Tiddybrook here, which is at the end of this cul-de-sac. And there is a pedestrian walkway through here onto Churchill Road. The property in question is actually this one here. It's come up, dropped on here for some reason, but it is this end property here with this kick. At present, the ground floor front room, as you can see here, it's labelled as treatment room, is being presumably traditionally the dining room is being used as the treatment room by Mrs Bridgewater, as this is the existing survey site plan and the existing first floor plan as well. Existing elevation. So this one presents to the road, this one on the side to the neighbours to the east. The rear elevation and the opposite side, which would go on to the rear of Churchill Road. So these are the proposed site plans. The new proposed ground floor would enlarge the kitchen to incorporate this dining area. This is a single story extension with a kind of orangery type raised roof light above it. So it's a single story dining area attached to the existing kitchen, which is proposed. And you will see that the treatment room has changed rooms, if you like, from this room here, which would become the children's playroom, into what is currently the integral garage. So essentially an ancillary use moving from here into an ancillary use in here. This continues to leave adequate garden space to meet the SPD requirements in terms of square meterage for garden area, and would leave space for 2 vehicles on the front drive, obviously with the garage being given over to ancillary domestic space. There's also the addition proposed of a first floor dormer, which you can see here on the southeast elevation, sorry. So that is on the front of the property facing over the roadway, over the cul-de-sac. And you can see on this northeast elevation, which would face onto the neighbour to the east, this is the ground floor proposed dining room extension and additional access into here with the dormer showing here. Again, single-storey rear extension, and from the rear, the single-storey rear extension, the addition of a roof light. You can see from this first floor proposed plan that the dormer doesn't do anything other than just enlarge bedroom 4. So it remains a 4-bedroom property and fairly traditional first floor layout, but the addition of the dormer above and what would be the children's playroom, or is currently the treatment room, just enlarges bedroom 4 slightly. But it remains a 4-bedroom property, with the majority of the proposed extension being single-storey or just changing the uses around within the existing building. I'll just take you through the photographs. These will say what they are on the screen, but I will go through them for you. So this is the front elevation, which shows the garage, which is proposed to be converted to the sports therapy treatment room, with the utility section down the side here. This is the wall of the adjacent property to the east. And you can see the area where the dormer would be proposed to go onto the front of the current bedroom 4 and into this roof space. This is the Tiddybrook Road cul-de-sac end. So this is the property here on the right-hand side. And this is the walkway that you can see through leading to Churchill Road. And if you went round 180 degrees, you'd be facing back this way and down Tiddybrook Road, back out of the development. These photographs are taken from the rear of the property. So looking back towards the rear of the garage area, you can see this is the area here where the single-storey dining extension is proposed, and the blank gable here of the neighbour's property. Again, the area proposed for the dining to come off the kitchen here. And again, if you had your back to this timber area here, you'd be looking out at this space here, which again is where the single-storey dining area is proposed. This is looking down Tiddybrook. This walkway here, you can just about see the pedestrian bollard here through into Churchill Road, and the property here proposed on the end. And just a closer view of that with the parking shown at the front, the garage. It is fair to note that there is a reasonable amount of on-street informal parking in this area. As you can see from these photographs, and in fact the next one, it's not a particularly wide cul-de-sac, but when the case officer took this picture, there's no on-street parking at all. And it was a similar situation when I conducted my site visit sometime later, even though that was in fact during the pandemic, where obviously more people were at home. Most of these properties have adequate on-plot
Chair,
parking.
Anna, sorry for my interruption. I believe the streaming has stopped. Can that, and if that's the case, then we really ought to pause for a second. Can someone confirm to me whether the streaming has stopped or whether it started again, please?
Currently, it's stopped, Pat. We're looking into it.
Okay, we will. Sorry, Ms. Henderson-Smith, if you just pause for a minute while we get this one back up and running again.
Does anybody know when it stopped? Do you want me to go back?
You might need to. I'm
possibly a couple of minutes ago, Anna.
Okay.
Okay, we will pause then while we wait for the live stream to come back up again. Vicky, are you there? I can't see you on the list. Has somebody contacted Vicky Crugan?
We have, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, may I say I have reason to believe that it is in fact working fine on YouTube.
Okay. So do we have a confirmation then that it is back up and running as it should be?
Yes, I have confirmation that it's up and running live on Facebook, Chair.
Facebook or YouTube? Or does it matter?
Well, I've just got a message say Facebook. Just bear with me. I'll check. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, they're just checking on the YouTube, so I'll get back to you shortly. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will sit tight for a minute then.
Thank you, Chair. Both are working now, so we can continue.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Vicky, for getting that one back up and running. And my apologies to any members of the public who are watching for the loss of transmission. As soon as we realised it, we paused the agenda, and Ms Anderson-Smith will go back 2 or 3 slides just to ensure that nobody has missed out on anything. So, Ms Anderson-Smith, if you could back over to you, please.
Thank you. Can you hear me, Chair?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just go back to the beginning of the photographs. I think we stopped stream possibly just after this one, so I'll just whiz back through these for the benefit of anybody that missed them. So these are the photographs of the site. This is the front elevation showing the garage, which is proposed to be converted to the sports therapy treatment room, and the existing room, which is currently used for sports therapy treatment, which is proposed to be reincorporated, if you like, back into the more domestic uses in the property as a children's playroom. You can see here and in this picture the neighbour to the immediate east and the blank gable facing onto the application property. Turning around, this is the application property on the right here, and you can see the pedestrian walkway down here into Churchill Road. You can just see the edge here of the parking area in front of the application property. Turning around 180 degrees, so looking back down Tiddybrook Road cul-de-sac. It's not a long cul-de-sac, but say standing at the front of the application property here, looking back east. In the rear of the property, you're looking at the rear of the garage in the picture in the top left here, with the neighbouring blank gable end on the left. And the area here where you can see the pots and the timber structure is where the single-storey dining room extension is proposed to come off to the adjacent kitchen. Again, you can see the kitchen window here, and the single-storey dining room structure is proposed here. Again, if you had your back to this timber structure, which you can see just off the left-hand side here, you're looking out to where the dining room would project out into the garden. You can see, as noted previously, there's still an ample amount of garden for a property of this size. So again, just looking back down Tiddybrook cul-de-sac here, this is the application property with a vehicle parked on its front parking area and the cut through to Churchill Road. It's just worth noting here that there's not a large amount of on-street parking on a day-to-day basis, or certainly that was my experience on site, and from these photos it would suggest that was also the case officer's experience of the site. So although it's not a particularly wide cul-de-sac and doesn't serve many properties, there doesn't seem to be an enormous amount of pressure for the more informal on-street parking. Apologies. So as you'll have seen from the objections, a number of them relate to the fact that the initially submitted plans for this application didn't identify the use of one of the rooms as being at present as a therapy room. So as a result, revised documents were requested and were duly received and re-advertised fully. Later, further information to clarify the use of the current and future proposed treatment rooms was received from the agent and passed to officers. Officers, including a legal opinion from the council's lawyer, consider that the current and proposed business use of this room to be ancillary to the primary domestic use of the property, and that this doesn't materially alter the use of the building. The information submitted and the officer and legal analysis around this point can be found on pages 10 to 11 and 13 to 14 for members in your reports. It's worth noting at this point, and many members you will be aware of this, but just for clarity, that if the use of the single room, whether it be the present treatment room or the future treatment room, were to intensify or increase to a larger proportion of the building, that would be a matter for enforcement. What's in front of us at the moment is considered by officers and legal to be a currently operating ancillary domestic use of that treatment room, and the proposed treatment room, which I would just reiterate isn't a second treatment room, it is a case of it just moving from one room to the other. And you'll note that I think it's condition 6 on page 18 prevents the two being used in conjunction. It's an either or. Once one starts, the cessation of the other room for treatment must cease. So if there were any intensification of that use, then that would be a matter for enforcement. And if it were deemed that there had been a material change of use to a more predominantly business premises, then that would be a case of looking to regularise that, and the consideration as to whether that's acceptable in this area would be considered then. At this current point in time, it's officer opinion that it is an ancillary use and it's acceptable at the current level of intensification, if you like. This use might increase demand for parking on occasion for anyone driving to this site, but as noted, there's parking for 2 vehicles on the site, even if the garage is to be converted. And as I've said at the time of taking these photographs, there is quite an amount of informal on-street parking in and around this residential area, and it certainly wasn't busy at the time I visited or the case officer visited. With regards to the design, I will just go back to remind you of the proposal in terms of its physicality, if you like. The extension is relatively low. The majority of it is the single-storey dining room extension, and the only first floor aspect is the addition of a roof light into the rear of the garage and this front dormer that you can see before you on the southeast elevation, serving what is currently and would still remain bedroom 4. It's considered to be in keeping with the current property. The adjacent property has a blank gable facing this property, as you've seen, and there remains a level of physical separation between the two buildings. This is no closer than the existing shed, detached shed, but although it is slightly closer in terms of footprint, there's still a level of separation between the two buildings. The proposed dormer window, which you can see before you, faces over the road, the property's own parking and front garden. So there's not considered to be any difference in terms of overlooking or views from this proposed dormer than there is from the existing first floor southeast elevation bedroom windows that you can already see are in position there. I've already touched on the fact that there would be an acceptable level of garden remaining for sort of amenity of the current and future occupiers. and an acceptable level of parking, so both in accordance with the supplementary planning document as adopted by the council. So overall, subject to the conditions which are listed on pages 17 and 18 in full, the application is considered to be acceptable and is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Just for clarification, with the actual, just looking at the parking for just a second, because I know this was something that was, a lot of people, the objectors are concerned about. Can you confirm that Tiddybrook Road and also Churchill Road, which sort of is close to it, that it is actually public highway and that there aren't any parking restrictions on those roads, so anybody can park there? Is that correct?
I can't confirm right here and now that it's public highway. I don't know the answer to that. I must admit it was my assumption that it was and that it is not private. I can confirm there are no parking restrictions. It would look to be public highway purely because of the fact that it's surfaced to this standard, it's tarmacked, and it's got what appear to be Devon County Highway street lighting. But I can't categorically confirm that Churchill Road and Tiddybrook are public highway. Having said that, we have consulted Devon County Highways. They've come back with no objections or comment. If it were private, they normally flag that. So I think it's a fairly well-informed assumption. But as I say, there are certainly no parking restrictions down here in terms of if it is highway, which I think it is, a publicly adopted highway, that there are no road markings or street markings, no single or double lines.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. Members, does anybody have any questions for Ms Henderson-Smith? Councillor Pearce.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Ms Henderson-Smith. Thank you for your presentation. I'm just wondering, when we view the down the road on the picture which is on screen now, to the left appears to be a turning circle. Do you know if there's a entrance into properties at the end of that turning circle, please?
My belief is there is. When I went to site, I can double check from the site plan in just a second. When I went to site, there was a vehicle parked where my cursor is here,
right,
as so often happens in small residential turning heads. I think there was one vehicle that was parked up here.
right.
But I will just check. Sorry, I'm trying not to have to scroll through them all for you. But I'm going to have to, I'm afraid. Technology is not my hot point.
What I'm concerned about is the fact that because of the way the property is positioned,
yes,
any people visiting won't be able to park exactly outside the property on the right hand side.
So you can see from the site, like, so sorry, Chair, through you, you can see from the site location plan that there is a property served. I'm afraid, make out what the number is from here, but there's a property served here off Tiddybrook Road that comes off this part of the turning head. And you can see the other part sits in front of here. From having been to site, if this is any clearer, from having been to site, it's quite a large turning head. It's 2 vehicles wide. At this point here,
yes,
you can see that's probably 2.5 meters DDA compliant pedestrian access. So then you've got this as well, and you can see actually the other part of the turning head going off this way. This is obviously the allocated turning head. Ideally, no, you wouldn't want visitors of any form, whether it be domestic or business, necessarily parking in this space here. However, this is 2 vehicles wide, this area, and there is ample other space along here if you weren't parking immediately outside, or obviously the applicants have the option to leave their own drive clear if they're expecting any kind of visitors that mobility wise may not be able to walk down this street. They have the option of moving their own vehicle.
Yes, yeah. Good point. Okay, thank you for that. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Hipsey.
Thank you, Chair. I think my question is effectively answered. There appeared to be a contradiction I think, between what you said, Ms. Henderson-Smith, about off-street, on-street parking before we had the break just now and after. I wonder if we can just be absolutely clear, because this seems to be a very important point for the case, that your opinion is that there is adequate on-street informal on-street parking to meet the needs of the application. Is that correct, please?
It is, yeah. At the level of use for the business at present as an ancillary use, yes, in my view and in the case officer's view, there's adequate on-street parking for the occasional additional vehicle that may be being visiting that property.
Many thanks for that clarification.
Thank you, Councillor Hipsey. Any other questions from other members? Give you a few seconds. Okay. No. Okay, thank you. Then we will move to registered speakers, and the first registered speaker is the applicant, which is Mrs. Bridgewater. Good morning, Mrs. Bridgewater. Are you able to confirm if you can hear us and if you can speak so we know we can definitely hear you?
Good morning. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Lovely, we can, thank you. As I'm sure you have been informed in the paperwork that you received, you do have 3 minutes in which to make your presentation. You will get a 30-second warning as we get towards the end of those 3 minutes by, I think it's Mrs. Hall, will give you just 30 seconds. And at the end of that 3 minutes, I will ask you to stop if you haven't already done so. And then members of the Planning Committee will have opportunity to ask you any questions for clarification. So when you are ready, over to you, please.
Good morning. I believe the reason this planning is coming to committee today is because my husband is a member of West Devon. It is a domestic household application, and as my business is ancillary, it will not change or expand as a result of our home improvements. It is for a dining, utility, playroom and a dormer to make the small bedroom usable. There have been no objections from county highways, environmental health or drainage specialists. We live in a wide cul-de-sac with ample parking for my one client. This is no different to having a friend over for a cuppa. When we purchased our house, our solicitor undertook extensive research to check that I can continue to work from my home due to my level of qualifications, insurance and my professional membership. This is something I've been doing in Tavistock for over 14 years. I only have one pair of hands, so I can only treat one client at a time. I only see a few clients in a week, as it is a physically and mentally demanding job. Predominantly, I'm a mum to my young children. Treatment days and times vary around my childcare and the need of the client, as many people cannot see me during normal working hours, as they themselves are at work. Planning law states, will your home continue to be the primary residence for your family? Yes, as less than 13 square metres will be for the business use. Will the business result in marked rise in traffic? No. Will the business involve activities unusual in a residential area? No, as many therapists work from their domestic properties. Will the business disturb neighbours at an unreasonable hour or create other forms of nuisance, such as noise or smells? Again, the answer is no. My clients visit in a civilised manner. No noise or smells are generated. In fact, from the external view, you wouldn't know the use existed. In summary, the only reason the application is here is because my husband is a member of West Devon. The application is solely to improve our family home. The business element is just sliding my one treatment room from one side of the garage to the other, thus keeping my family and business use separate and safe, which is now recommended and so important, especially during this pandemic. Working from home is actively encouraged and the new norm. As the officer states on page 8, a legal opinion has been sought from West Devon Borough Council's legal specialist, who said the relocation of the treatment room to the garage does not alter the character. It is considered clearly ancillary. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mrs. Bridgewater. Any members have any questions? Again, giving you all time. It would appear not. So thank you very much indeed for your time, Mrs. Bridgewater. So we now move to Councillor Paul Ward from Tavistock Town Council. Councillor Ward, again, can you confirm that you can hear us and we can hear you?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I can hear you.
Lovely, thank you. And the same as Mrs. Bridgewater, you will have 3 minutes in which to make your presentation. You will get a 30-second warning, and at the end of your presentation, members of the committee will have the opportunity just to ask you any questions for clarification. So when you're ready, in your own time, off you go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to present the Town Council's position. For those of you who don't know me, I am the chairman of the Town Council Development Management and Licensing Committee. We have seen several iterations of application for this property, and on 2 previous occasions, the Town Council supported what was being proposed. However, on the 3rd occasion, we certainly gained the impression that there was likely to be an expansion of business activity, and we were very mindful of the representations from neighbours who are clearly very concerned, particularly about parking matters. And as a result, the committee objected to this application, and that objection was ratified by full council. However, at the time, we had not seen the very full letter of representation from the applicant's agents. And having read that letter in great detail, it does seem to me that the objections raised by the Town Council are overcome. And I am minded to believe that if this application were to be reconsidered by the Town Council, it is likely to be supported. I have consulted with the Vice Chairman of our committee, and he is of the same opinion. So obviously I can't speak for the whole committee because they haven't had an opportunity to consider the new information. But as I say, I feel that the objections that we raised have been overcome. And that's all I wish to say.
Thank you very much indeed. Members, any questions? They're all very quiet this morning. No, thank you very much, Councillor Ward, indeed, for your time. And of course, you are welcome to stay and hear the outcome of the decision. I believe you're registered. No, that one's finished. OK, lovely. Thank you. Right. So, yes, I'm sorry, I just got a bit lost where we were there for a minute. Got thrown by that. OK, so I will, if there's no further questions from any members, then I will move the recommendation, which is as laid out on page 8, which is for conditional approval. Is there a seconder for that, please?
Happy to second, Chairman. Councillor Pearce here.
Thank you. Members, we're in debate. Does anybody wish to speak in debate to this matter? Councillor Enders.
Sorry, I just had to unmute myself. No, I was just going to say I don't think there's any objections now. Then I think it's I'm quite happy with everything I've heard this morning, given the officer's recommendations and now the gentleman from Tavistock Town Council. So I'm quite happy with this one. Just thought I'd say that. And yes, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hipsey.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I too read the like Councillor Ward read the letter from the applicant's agent at a very late stage. I don't think it was available until quite late on, and it certainly allays my fears. And having heard Ms. Henderson-Smith's comments about parking, and the fact that in this, I believe in this current situation we find ourselves in, we should be encouraging businesses of this sort, small businesses. I fully support it. Don't have. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any more for any more? Councillor Pearce.
Thank you, Chairman. I wish to say about the understanding of nearby residents' concerns. This always happens when a business is seen to be expanding in the residential area, but as we have seen from the presentations and from the conditions that were put in place, will not be an expanding business. And I think we need to look at this, what's before us, as an actual increasing in accommodation for the family that are living in the property. As I said earlier, I can understand residents' concerns. It is a residential area, and unlike Councillor Hipsey, I have great concerns when businesses are run from residential homes in a residential area. However, I think the conditions that we put in place and our legal officers' advice is that we have to support this application. But I think we need to convey the message to the residents who have these concerns that should anything start to increase in size, the business size, the enforcement action will be taken subject to the conditions that are laid down. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Mr. Weimer.
Sorry, if I could just clarify a comment that Councillor Pearce just made. I think he's absolutely right that if the business expands or there's an intensification, then absolutely that's something that the enforcement team will look at. But I think it'd be premature to say that it is something that we would take enforcement action against. I think we'd need to make that decision on what the situation was. We found it at that time.
Presumably, we are talking about if it ceased to be ancillary.
Correct. But then we wouldn't be able to. You shouldn't jump straight from it's a breach, therefore you take action. We as an authority, we would need to consider whether any breach did cause harm to therefore take action. So absolutely, we would investigate it. But I think it'd be a little bit premature at this point to say yes, we would definitely take action.
Okay, thank you. Any other members of the committee wish to speak? Okay, and I think we will take this to the vote. So we have a recommendation for conditional approval, and I will ask the Ms. Hall to go through the list and just to confirm that you have heard all the debate, and then if you could please then indicate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Members, can I just ask in turn if you were present and have heard all of the debate? Thank you. Councillor Cheadle.
Yes, I've been listening throughout the debate, heard everything, and I support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Crozier.
Yes, I've heard all the debate and I support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Hipsey.
I've heard the entire debate and I support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Mott.
I have heard the presentation and I am happy to support the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Moyes.
I've heard all of the debate and will support the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Pearce.
I've heard all the debate and the presentation and I support the application.
Thank you. Councillor Ratcliffe. Councillor Ratcliffe.
Sorry, I am mute and it mutes again. I apologise, Chair. Yes, I have been present, heard all of the debate and I support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Renders.
Yes, I've also been present throughout, heard everything and will support.
Thank you. Councillor Vachon.
Present throughout, heard all the debate and support the recommendation.
Thank you. And Councillor Yelland.
Present throughout, heard all the debate and support the recommendation.
Thank you. That's a unanimous support in favour. Thank you.
Thank you. So that is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to do a little bit of jiggery pokey with the agenda, members, because the next application won't be due to be heard till 11:15. So I'm going to ask Mr. Weimer if we will move on to item 6, which is the planning performance indicators, and ask Mr. Weimer to give us an update on these, please.
Thank you, Chair. If you bear with me a second, I'll just get the... Okay, can I make an assumption that you can see the indicators and hear me okay?
Yes, we can see and hear you. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. I'll briefly go through these, and then if any members have any questions, I'll try and answer them. So the top 4 bar graphs are in respect of planning application performance. So the top 2, can you see my cursor moving here, by the way?
Yes, can.
Okay,
thank you.
so the top 2, so the one on the top left is our performance on major applications, and the top right is non-major applications. That's how the MHCLG now measure us, and the black line, so to speak, is the government target that we need to be above. So the top 2 are our overall performance. That includes agreed extensions of time, and the 2 below are the performance without extensions of time. I would expect, wouldn't expect major applications to be much more than this, because it is incredibly difficult to get a major application determined. Most, if not all, certainly most have Section 106 agreements. They all take time, so getting that done within 13 weeks is always a challenge. So that doesn't surprise me. My preference would be that we are dealing with a little bit more than 60% in time without an extension, but that's something we'll be working on. Do you want me to pause after every sort of different indicator, or go to the end and ask for questions?
Go to the end and ask for questions. Okay, there's no hands up at the moment anyway, so.
Okay. Then these 3 these 3 graphs here are I suppose in and out, really. So this is the number of applications registered on the left, the on-hand workload on the middle one, and then the number of applications determined. You'll see there was, in terms of determination, there was a drop and then an up spike on the May last year. That was the drop was fundamentally because of lockdown 1, and we had we put everything on pause until parish councils had got there had been a change in the legislation to allow parish council meetings to be held remotely. So that did cause a delay, and therefore the number of applications we could physically determine there was a drop because everything moved, and then that's why there was more determined the following month as we were catching up. Overall applications in 2019 we received 882 applications, and in 2020 we received 949. So it's a 7.5% increase in applications we received from 19 to 20, so which isn't insignificant in terms of workload to go through. The next 2 are the planning fee income, with the blue line being the last financial year and the black line being this financial year. We are pretty much on target for the income as far as the budget is concerned. There was clearly a big drop in pre-app income because again, lockdown 1, we paused doing pre-apps until we could work out exactly what we could and couldn't be doing in terms of going out on site and meeting people. These 3 graphs are in respect of pre-apps received. So again, it's numbers received, current workload, and numbers closed. We have put more resource into doing pre-applications, which is why, generally speaking, there's been a greater number closed and dealt with than there was the previous year. And finally, enforcement cases. So the one on the left-hand side is the number of cases received. You'll certainly notice in the second quarter there was a significant jump in terms of what we received other than about the other quarters. This is the number closed, and the right-hand side is the number outstanding. what I would, in terms of figures, and I've had a little look at this. In 2019, we received 135 enforcement cases and closed 124. So we're pretty much closing the same number that we got. And in 2020, we've received 179. So it's what's that? 44 more, so about a third more. But we've closed 181. So again, we're closing. We are getting through and closing a similar number that we received. Thank you, Chairman. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I will ask one, is that in terms of the enforcement cases, there are quite a few still historical cases that are showing on the enforcement lists that come out. Are you able to confirm that these are being looked at with a view to looking at the history of them and why they are still showing as outstanding, please?
Yes, Chair, I can confirm that there is a piece of work being undertaken at the moment, or we've certainly put a plan into place that we're going to specifically look at all of the older cases to see what is the block. Some of them there are a couple where there are genuine reasons why they haven't been closed. There's somewhere enforcement notice has been served, haven't been complied with, and it's do we take legal action, do we take direct action, that sort of thing. There are a small number, but yes, it's absolutely looking at older cases to see why they can't be closed, and if action needs to be taken, action will be taken as a priority to look at those.
Thank you. Councillor Cheadle.
Thanks very much. Pat, a couple of questions, if I may, on one of the graphs, the WDP2 non-major applications on target graph, the one on the right-hand side there. The black line, which is set at, is it 80%, I think, just above 75%?
Yeah.
Is that the sort of government's requirement, or is that our own self-imposed target?
That is the government's requirement.
Right. And do we have our own sort of performance indicator of what we're aiming to do with regard to getting these applications through on time?
No. We've for as long as I've been here, we've been working to the government target.
Right. Okay. Thanks. My question really then is, does the applicant, if an application is not going to be addressed in the sort of statutory time, is there sort of communication between the planning officer and the applicant to let the applicant know that?
I think yes is the straightforward answer, but I've got to be a little bit careful because in the vast majority of cases, there won't be direct conversations with the applicant if they've got an agent. Because we would so yes we would have conversations with the applicant's agent, not necessarily the applicants themselves.
That's fine. I mean, that's why presumably applicants employ agents to sort of
exactly right.
Do that. It's just that we've had a couple of I'm not surprised at it, but we've had a couple of cases where members of the public have sort of complained that they sort of haven't heard, and I just wondered if that's because their agents haven't bothered to tell them, or whether we've not communicated.
It could be a combination of either, councillor. There's no doubt in my mind that what we should be doing is contacting the agents if it's not going to get dealt with within 8 weeks, because the vast majority of time why something isn't getting dealt with, it's either because we're waiting for a key consultation response from somebody, or that we're in negotiations and we're seeking some revised plans. So there should already be some conversations with agents to let them know what's going on. Hand on heart, can I say that happens 100% of the time? No, I can't. It's something that we need to be working on, but there's no doubt in my mind that there will be a number where, for whatever reason, we haven't gone back to the agent as quickly as perhaps we would like to.
Yeah, I mean, it might be something that the new IT system might be able to sort of just flag up when an application is run over time and communication hasn't been made. I just leave that as a thought.
Thank you.
Okay, would you be kind enough to take your hand down, Councillor Cheadle? Otherwise, I should be bringing you back in again. Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Weimer? No, thank you. I'm just wondering whether we should skip very quickly to the planning appeals update, how long that was going to take, or because I want to give members an opportunity just for a screen break before we move to the next application and give officers a chance to bring in the next speakers. So I didn't want to rush it.
Chair, with respect, I think the appeals may take a little bit more than 5 minutes. Can I suggest we could look at is the major applications report.
Certainly, that's item 8. We are skipping around a bit, I'm afraid, members. I'm sorry, but just want to be flexible and use the time to the best of our ability. If you remember rightly, this is a new thing on the agenda that came out of the report from Plymouth Road, and this is purely for members just to see how major applications are progressing. This is not to be looked at the merits of any application in any way, shape or form. So if members do have any questions throughout, please can it just be relating to the progress of the application? Over to you, Mr. Weimer.
Chair, I've got nothing to add to that. But I'm more than happy to answer any questions that members have on the list. And again, if when the agenda is published and members see this list, if they've got any questions, it would be really helpful if I could have them in advance so that I can make sure I've got the full facts for you. But I'll try and answer any questions that you may have.
Any members have any questions? It would appear not. Okay, so lovely. Right, thank you, Mr. Weimer. Okay, we will call a short recess then, and we will reconvene. If members can be back on by 20:11, because the next application is due to start at 1:45, that will give us an opportunity for that roll call to make sure that everybody is present and correct.
Sorry, Chair. Can I just make one further comment on the major report? I do apologise for interruption.
Okay.
I believe a number of members have asked us around. There's a major pre-app in for Hatherley. And just to confirm, yes, it is a pre-app, and it is on the allocated site at Hatchmore, just for information.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we will reconvene, please, at 20:11 promptly for a roll call, and if we can pause the live stream and put a note up on YouTube just to explain that is what is happening. Many thanks, everybody. See you shortly.